Welcome. It is week 11 of this quarter class, 13 weeks, and it is good to see you. Titled The Right Words at the Right Time, and there is our focus scripture for the day. Maybe you can start figuring out from there what our focus is going to be today. But before we do that, Sharon Troutman has a quick little commercial for us, and then Missy will be saying a prayer for us.
I don't know who remembers Sister Felina Myers and George Myers. They used to sit a couple in front of me and Mom till COVID, and we all got. But he's preaching over at the Woodland Park Church of Christ, and she sent this to the church, but she also sent one to me and said, "Our Ladies' Day is fast approaching. Would you be so kind to share the deal? We hope you ladies could come. We plan a beautiful day of fellowship for the ladies. RSVP by May 20th, and it's going to be on June 3rd, and living out our calling." She's got, I can put it on the board here, I guess, best we can put here.
Yeah.
It's got the speakers and subject, and I think it is, how much it was, something dollars if it was for the, I don't even think it's got, I may be wrong, but I'm sorry. But anyway, that's for the Woodland, and this Woodland Park, the one that's out by where Johnson. You mean Woodland Place? Woodland Place. Oh, Woodland Place. I'm sorry, Woodland Place. You're right. Yeah, as Pearl Written, that area.
Okay.
That area. So not far.
And Selena is doing her due diligence because you're not the only one.
You got evidently several sisters got one in the.
Okay, good. Good.
I'll put mine on the thing there. If anybody wants to go, I'm planning on it. We can ride.
Sounds like a good opportunity. Okay, Missy is going to pray for us at this time.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning for this time to gather together as sisters, to share stories, to learn from your word, and to be encouraged. Thank you for the speakers that we have, for their thoughtful words and their bravery. I pray that classes like this will continue to help us form a strong sisterhood. Please be with Megan today as she shares her heart, and please ours and support and love. Thank you for all the women who are mothers here today, women who have given birth to children, women who have given homes and shelter to children in need, women who serve and have served as mentors in place of biological mothers, women who have lost children, women who have had the courage to ask for help and given their children to families. They gave us life. We are so thankful for our mothers and so thankful for that gift. Please be with us today and help us take these lessons and apply them to our life in a way that pleases you.
Amen. Thank you, Missy. That was beautiful. Okay. Today we are going to be talking about words of wisdom. I thought this would be a perfect fit going with Mother's Day today. And in 1 Corinthians 12, we find out that wisdom is considered a spiritual gift. There's a whole list of spiritual gifts there, and wisdom is one of those. And it's something that we should all be seeking constantly. So what is it? It's the proper use of knowledge. So knowledge would be the foundation, but then how are we applying it to make decisions in our life? How are we using what we know? That would be wisdom. James 1:5. So words of wisdom. If any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. He gives it generously. He's not stingy with it. He gives it out. He gives as much as we need. Without fault means he's not, why are you asking again? It means that we can come over and over and ask for more. And that makes me feel good. That's what we should be doing, is asking God for wisdom all the time. Proverbs is considered the book of wisdom. There's over 100 verses in Proverbs that address wisdom and the way that we speak. I could have spent all day in Proverbs. But I wanted, oh, and this is a Proverbs 1. The beginning of wisdom is this. Get it? Though it costs all you have, get understanding. Not only are we supposed to ask for it, but we're constantly supposed to be in pursuit of it. Constantly in pursuit and asking God for it. Solomon, who's considered the wisest man who ever lived, said to seek wisdom like silver and search for it like a hidden treasure. That tells me how valuable it is. In the description of a worthy woman in Proverbs 31, it does not surprise me that there's a verse in there, verse 26, and it says, she opens her mouth in wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. So I've just given you so many verses. So why is wisdom so important to us as Christian women? We're supposed to ask for it, constantly in pursuit. Why? And I do want some answers here.
Proper use of knowledge is the greatest source of knowledge and great opportunity.
Right?
First mouths that you're the first words that the babies hear, the children hear.
Yes. Anybody else? Why should we be in constant pursuit? Why is it so important? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, y'all hit on basic. I mean, we could go on and on to gain perspective. I had written down to make better choices the next time, to constantly, like you said, to look at other people's experiences. What can I learn from that? Learn from the mistakes of others and self, and to counsel others. We should be someone that people come to ask questions for, to come to for counsel because of the wise words that we're known for speaking. And I'm going to take it back to a children's story. I bet they're in there singing it right now. A story of a wise man and a foolish man. And to me, it just really tells the most basic reason why we need wisdom in our life. There was a wise man and a foolish man, and they both built houses. And I wish I had the kids in here doing that. The foolish man built his house on sand, and the wise man built it on rock. The winds came, the sand house fell down, and the house on the good foundation stood firm. That's right. You see, building on a strong foundation completely matters. That's the knowledge. That foundation is the knowledge that we have to have. But what we really need is God's wisdom, the next step. How are we going to apply this knowledge to give us what we truly need to help us through all of the storms of life? What is really going to withstand those storms? Foundation is what really matters. So last week, because it's Mother's Day, I want to flip it a little bit, and I'm going to take our words of wisdom to mothers. I asked for you to do a homework assignment. And I said, something that you remember your mom saying, rules, advice, rules to live by, things that you can still hear her saying to this day. You didn't want to listen then, but you're like, oh, she was right. The right words at the right time, or in this case, I'm going to apply it to words of wisdom. And I got some. I have some star pupils in this classroom, I'll say that. But a lot of people did not do their homework, but I do love all the ones that came in. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to read through some of those, and I'm going to break them up. And then I will ask at the end, as long as time is still looking good for our speaker today, if you had something that you were thinking on and you just didn't get to send it to me. So listen to some of these. If you can't say something nice about someone or something, don't say anything at all. I think I've said that one a few weeks ago. If something works well, it fits the purpose. I like that, just straight to the point. Cynthia Luce sent that in. We heard Linnell say this in her talk, but again, and I absolutely love it. I told one of my students this: brace up, persevere. And that comes straight from Blanche. I love Candy Hills, what she sent in, the right words at the right time. I had to start wearing glasses in 2nd grade and was often called Four Eyes by other students. My mom's right words at the right time were this: you tell them that 4 eyes are wonderful. And I see more with 4 eyes, and everything is clearer and prettier with 4 eyes. She says, I still appreciate her wisdom to this day for that. She also told Candy, she said, to smile a lot, because my smile would always light up someone's life and they would smile in return. And we know that's true. I see her. She's giving me that smile right now. I love that. Julie Craig sent in, life is an adventure. So when your plans don't work out, make new plans. You never know when you're going to have to do that.
So just because life is an adventure last night. Mike and I were there in the cornhole. Mike and I were playing. I said, you want to play? And she's like, I never played. So she was playing cornhole.
I love it. I love it. Make new adventures everywhere. My mom sent in some for Reba. She said, you just have to let some things go in one ear and out the other, especially when it came to my papa at times, just in one ear and out the other, because she always kept her cool. If she was getting frustrated over a project, Reba would often say, just walk away from it and come back later. And then usually when she'd come back, it would be right there ready to go. I use that all the time. She said, I trust you to make the right decision. Even though my mom writes, really, she just wanted her to tell her what to do. And her mom always said, if you're waiting on the perfect time to get something done, it will never come. You just have to get something done. Diane Sapson and mother always said to not date someone you would not want to marry. You never know when you could fall in love. I like that. Never marry anyone who's not a Christian. A divided house is not pleasant. Let's see. So, I have a lot of sisters. And we all were thinking the same thing for you, Mom. Well, I'm going to save Callie's funny one for the end. But Sunny put it in the best wording, but I had 3 of us. We all said the same thing. I love it. This was the one I was thinking of. Just go. Just go. You will never regret it. And what she's talking about when trying to decide on whether to go to a wedding, a funeral, some other one-time party event, her advice has always been to not debate it, make it work, and you go. She was right. We have never regretted showing up and just being there. She's always said that. You just go and do it. Let's see. Hold on. I don't want to miss anybody. Got Diane. Okay. Callie's. Let your light shine. Yes, but always save the grease. Here we go. So here's a little cooking tip for you. The best cook in the entire world, true for me too, my mother. I still don't know what the secret ingredient is. She won't tell me. It must be her love and experience. Has taught us to never waste anything. My nanny never wasted a thing. But bacon grease is a hot commodity, and you always save the bacon grease. It will make any other meal just taste just like home. So she adds in, save the bacon grease and save the ham hock, because you will use it later. It's so true. I don't think I missed anybody. Let me double check. Did I miss anybody? Anybody send in? Okay. See, words of wisdom, and these words need to be heard by all. And look at us, we're able to laugh at these and be like, I bet some of you are like, yep, I've heard that before, and that's true. We must find constant help, encouragement, and wisdom through the Bible. And we've got to be those people who are spreading those words of wisdom to all. But let me tell you something, you do not have to be a mother to share those words. And why it may be Mother's Day, I got to tell you, you don't have to be a mother to give out those words of wisdom, to be a positive influence to others. You could be a guidance giver. You could be a role model, a confidant. You can still have those maternal instincts of caring for those around you and have no child at all. That just does not make a difference. I hope you don't mind calling you out, but my Aunt Cindy does not have a child, but she has played a very important role in my life. Okay. And sorry, I don't know why. It was and still is such a cool aunt. And my love of makeup and beauty came from her. When I was, I don't know, maybe 6, she brought out an eyelash curler, and I had never seen one, and she put it up to her eye, and I was like, what is that? and when she put on her makeup, I'm telling you, I've always had a love for makeup, and it came from her. So, and style, yes. Just so cool. You don't have to be a mom to have that positive influence. Sharon Troutman, she knows probably every kid's name in this entire building, goes above and beyond at every VBS. She did not let having her own child hold her back from showing her maternal love and care to every kid. What she's done for my sister Joey has just been awesome. So don't let Mother's Day hold you back, whatever your situation may be. We all have a chance to be a positive influence in someone's life and speak those words of wisdom. Constantly ask God, pursue after it, and be that light, be that person that people will come and talk to you and ask more from. So I want to ask you, what words of wisdom are your children hearing from you? If your children are getting that same assignment, or someone close in your life is getting that same assignment, are they hearing words of wisdom for you? Are you currently in your life praying and seeking out wisdom constantly? Remember, he says he'll give it generously. We just have to ask, is that something that's a constant prayer? And I can't end this without saying I know what it was that I thought I was missing. Nancy Clyatt's, Mary Grace, and Melinda's talks were full of words of wisdom. I mean, just chock full. Thank you. I mean, that's the way I came away from all three. Is I hope I can learn to apply everything that I'm still experiencing to get to that point. So thank you for all those words of wisdom that you gave throughout those talks. I'm sorry. So again, I'm going to say it one more time. What words of wisdom are you showing others, for your children or anybody around you? And are you constantly praying and seeking after it? And if not, I beg of you to do that. Megan Parks has been a Christian for 24 years. She's been a member of Central for 7 years. She's married to Drew. She has been married to Drew for 7.5 years, and she has 2 kids. I did not know this, Megan. She has backpacked to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Her favorite verse is Psalms 46:10, be still and know that I am God. She likes to read books and do puzzles. So I welcome my friend up here, Megan Parks.
Maybe. Yeah, I can do that. I think I should be able to. All right. I say you'd think I'd be able to because I do this all the time if you know my job, but it's a little different in front of this group of ladies. So it'll take me a minute to maybe not be quite so nervous, but that's okay. I threw in, you'll get later, why there's the whole, why I specified how long Drew and I've been married, so you'll catch that. I wasn't just being nitpicky. So, all right, so as I take a deep breath, as others have said before me, it's extremely nerve-wracking to get up here and stand before so many wonderful ladies, especially on Mother's Day. I did not realize when I picked the day that it would be Mother's Day until about a month and a half ago, and I thought, when's Mother's Day? Oh, okay, that's really great. And of course, I hadn't really planned to talk specifically about anything specific to Mother's Day, but that's okay. But I did want to say thank you to my mom for taking me to church regularly and helping me be the Christian I am today, and the mom. And thank you to all the mothers. Christy said it wonderfully, just who have helped me raise my kids here. And I think that she said it exactly right. You don't have to be our kids' moms to be a mom to them. Through Bible class and just loving on our kids and saying hi to them as they run through the halls. I apologize for that, but that is, we've tried. I also reflect on what Melinda said during her lesson, make your home like heaven. And I know that she's not here today, but I wanted to thank Melinda for that, because that has been something that has been deeply on my mind since then, especially today on Mother's Day. All right, so I'm sure when you saw my name on the list, those of you that know me and know my story may have thought that maybe I would share that about 6 months into our marriage is where that comes into play. Drew and I decided to move across the country from Arizona to here. I was born and raised in Arizona, met Drew out there, so let's just be clear. He was there. Met him out there, we were married out there, and then 6 months into our marriage, we decided to move here. That was very difficult, and moving away from my family, everything I'd known, that was a lot. So, oh yes, happy Mother's Day. See, I told you, I need to remember to click now, and I even wrote it in my PowerPoint. You may also think that I may talk about the time that Hurricane Irma swept through Ocala. Just so you know, Drew had told me before moving here that we'd be fine. Ocala's in the middle of the state. Well, we weren't fine. Hurricane Irma went straight through the middle of Florida, hit our house. Many trees down in our yard. Many of you may have seen it. My aunts came about a month later, I think. Maybe not even quite, but they didn't know where my house was because, as I'll say, we were in a rental. And when we actually took them the next day, they were like, "Oh, that was yours?" We're like, "Yeah." They thought that was pretty impressive. So as it came through, we had 2 that actually fell on our house, one that landed on the bedroom that I had been in with my 3-week-old baby, not long before that. We don't really know when the tree fell. Luckily, we were not in the house at that time for that one. So yes, these were very difficult times for us, for me. After our move, I had to find new friends, had to find a new job, had to figure out, how to still see my family in Arizona, all of that. After our house was damaged, we moved to a rental. I had a 3-week-old baby, a newborn, my first kid. Now, if you had done that for a second kid, I mean, as many of you know, that would have been nothing. First kid, that was a lot. That was a lot. Having to try to adjust to a new house that we didn't, know anything about, and trying to have a newborn and adjust all that. So it was a lot. These were definitely times where certain words got me through. So did hugs and love from all of you and family, and just anybody that was around us definitely helped. These were times that people knew what I was going through, people knew what we were going through. So in some ways, that made it a little bit easier. Through these times, a phrase that kind of comes to mind, or came to my mind, that we'll talk about, but it is, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. And this wasn't actually said to me, thankfully, but it is just, it is a common phrase that I feel like we've kind of been raised with if you've been in Christianity for a long time. And these are not the right words at the right time. These are definitely the wrong words at the wrong time. Luckily, when you Google it, there's lots of pretty memes or pretty different pictures. And luckily now, when you Google this phrase, a lot of them says, God never said this. And it is true. And so thankfully, we've realized that through time. But it comes from 1 Corinthians 10:13. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. Well, this is the misinterpretation of this verse. He's speaking specifically of times that we are tempted. So why do we use this phrase when people are going through tough times in their life and different difficulties, that life brings on, deaths in the family, just other loss of jobs, those are not the times that this phrase is applying to. These are not temptations. These are just times that we're being bombarded with life in general. So when planning for this class, I began reflecting on a time that many of you know the events that I'm going to share, but probably not the impact that it necessarily was having on my spiritual life, on myself. These were probably because they were two separate, very separate things, and I kept them very inward of how hard it was. So this was not too long ago. It was almost 2 years ago, where over the summer, few days before my last days of work, I work through June and then I get a little bit of a break. I was told that I was going to be moving schools. And for those of you that don't know, I'm an assistant principal, and I was working about 15 minutes from home, and I was now going to work 35 minutes from home. So that's really not that bad. I mean, I come from a city. You think that that wouldn't have been a big deal, but it was still hard to accept. I think I had it a little easy, so maybe that's why. And I pick up my kids from school. I'm the one that usually goes and gets my kids when they're sick at school. So I knew that this was going to make things a lot harder when you have a throwing up child at school and you're going to be like, well, I'll be there in 45 minutes, because 5 to 10 minutes to tell somebody I'm leaving and then to get in the car. And so that was just a lot of stress that I was feeling with that move. I decided we were going to make it work, had a lot of support from family. Drew was very supportive. He's like, oh, it'll be fine. I knew that, Suzanne would be available to help with kids, and my parents had actually just moved here, so that was very helpful. So as I learned about my new school, made the adjustments, we were doing good, COVID ramped up again and really impacted the start of our school year. So on the first day of school, my principal had to leave an hour into school because she had been exposed to someone with COVID. So here I am. I'm just barely learning about how a new school runs. The secretary, if any of you have worked in schools, many of you have, know that the secretary runs the school. Luckily, I had some time with her, but then she was out on FMLA at the beginning of the school year for something separate. But so I was left really blind. I had my principal not being there, my secretary not being there. Luckily, had some others to support that did know the school, but through that, and at the beginning, I was able to call her. She was just exposed, so I could call her anytime. Drop of a hat, I'd give her a call. Well, then that became not possible because then she ended up getting COVID about a week later. So, I usually handle work stress pretty well. You don't usually hear too much about my work unless it's really stressing me out. So it was starting to break me down. Teachers were out all the time. If you remember that year, for those of you that worked at schools, it was all the time. We would have teachers out. We would have different sicknesses, parents mad about kids getting sent home for COVID. I mean, it was day in and day out something. Coverage of classes had to be planned. That was me because the secretary was out. Our dean ended up getting COVID. There's discipline. Our school resource officer. So we had another person on campus, somebody else that didn't know what gates needed to be locked, nor did I. Hadn't been there. So we were really just doing it all, figuring it all out. It seemed like at that time that every day there was a new hurdle to overcome, something else to go through. Well, one day Beckett ended up getting sick at school and needed to be picked up. I couldn't leave. I was in charge. We were not able to go. And that, even though I could figure it out, took me a little bit. I shut the door, was like, I got to find someone to go get Beckett. It was hard. That mama, talking about Mother's Day, that was hard. So during the day, I was slammed with those day-to-day things of the secretary, of the principal. And then at night, after my kids went to bed, I was working on my job duties until midnight, 1 o'clock, most nights. It was a lot. So, now I'm going to have to pull it together. That wasn't all. This was also about the time that my nephew was born in Iowa. This is where I need Hillary's moments of don't cry. Was healthy and home, only to be sent back to the hospital 2 days later because his blood test came back. He had SCID, so I guess that's how you say it, but severe combined immunodeficiency. So a lot of you knew that was going on at that time. It's where his blood doesn't make T cells. So it means that he can't fight off anything, can't fight off any diseases, the common cold, nothing. Couldn't fight any of that. So it began a year-long stay for him in the hospital with my brother and sister-in-law by his side, going through tests, treatment plans, 2 bone marrow transplants that required heavy chemotherapy before that. So through all that, wow, oh, I skipped a page. Let's not do that. That'll really get me off. That'll throw it off. So my brother and sister-in-law were the donors. Many of you know that story. And of course, that was even hard on them. That's a very difficult process. If you've ever known anybody that's gone through it, to donate bone marrow is pretty tough on your body as well. And my sister-in-law has rheumatoid arthritis, so it was even more on her body. But so through all of this, felt very exhausted, emotionally at edge at all times. It was all at the same time. Probably, obviously wasn't getting the sleep I needed, all of that. Definitely felt like it was more than I could handle. So a few more months before this all happened, I had come across that summer a prayer journal. I think I had seen it on Instagram or on some post. I have no idea how I came across it, but I thought, this might actually be something that I'll use. I am not a journaler. I don't write prayers down. I know there's a lot of ladies in here that are phenomenal with that. It doesn't do much for me, never did. I tried it up and down every once in a while, but I really felt the need to do this. And this was before all of this had happened. I thought, this looks like something I might be able to try. It was built by month and had just little places for you to jot stuff down. So it wasn't like this overwhelming thing to write everything out. And it just kind of compartmentalized everything, which was nice. Well, that month that I had all of this happened, I came across, and I even wrote in here, this is before it all happened, the month that month was, because you picked your months as you started. And that month was a devotional, because they have devotionals for every month, that really hit me, and to me were the right words at the right time. And I don't think I really knew that until I actually went back and reflected on this time of my life. The devotional is called Provider, and I'm going to read it. As a mother, so many thoughts come to mind when you think of the word provider. From the moment I saw that positive pregnancy test, I immediately became aware that we were responsible for that tiny person God was forming in my womb. In a blink, life changed, dreams changed, fears changed. My thoughts often focused on how we were going to provide for this tiny being that we had yet to see or hear. Many years and many kids has taught me over and over that I must trust God for his provisions that are beyond my comprehension. The word provides or provision means to prepare, to gain, to present, and a personal favorite, to take thought for. When I think of these meanings in the context of God's thoughts for my life and my children, I am reminisced that he has prepared a place for us in John 14:3. He longs for us to gain all that he has prepared on this earth and in eternity, and his thoughts about me, cannot be numbered. Psalms 139:17-18. God is our perfect provider. His provision is thoughtful, prepared in advance, and timely. A great example of this provision is when God tests Abraham. After years of waiting and praying, Abraham is blessed with a beloved son, Isaac. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, "Abraham, here I am," he answered. "Take your son," he said, "your only son Isaac, whom you love, go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about." That's Genesis 22:1-2. Wait, what? God is asking Abraham to sacrifice his son? Yet Abraham is willing when God calls, and Abraham is obedient. Are you willing and obedient when God calls? The calling often requires much of us, especially when our children are involved. Letting go, giving up control, sacrifice, all things that don't come naturally to us. Are you obediently trusting God for his perfectly timed provision? But God knew all along that the sacrifice was never about Isaac, but rather Abraham's heart. Now that we see a willing Abraham, we turn to a glimpse of God's perfect provision. As Abraham is reaching out with a knife, God calls out to Abraham and stops him from sacrificing his son and provides a ram in his place. Provision follows trusting God. Abraham not only passed the test, but also learned a lesson in God's character. In trusting and obeying the Lord, we will see his provision, and more importantly, we will meet the provider deeply and intimately. Are you obediently trusting God for his perfectly timed provision? Wow. Was I trusting and obeying the Lord in order to see his provision, his perfectly timed provision? Those were the right words at the right time. So by having to lead my school at a tough time, I built strong relationships with the staff that normally would have taken a lot longer to build. My nephew was moved to Phoenix Children's Hospital to be with a doctor that is one of the leading physicians in research and care for children with this disease. And thankfully, he was near family that was able to support him through that treatment, support the family. Many friends and family provided, a lot of you here as well, financially for them as my brother couldn't work and expenses were building. And even my sister-in-law, her job, she was able to work remotely. So she carried insurance and was able to provide for her family by working in the hospital room, which is crazy. I realized that God provided when we couldn't, either mentally or physically. In the midst of these difficult times, I came across a new song that had been released by Lauren Daigle during the pandemic. And these were words that really helped me and I came back to often during this time. It's hold on to me. When the best of me is barely breathing, when I'm not somebody I believe in, hold on to me. When I miss the light the night has stolen, when I'm slamming all the doors you've opened, hold on to me, hold on to me. Hold on to me when it's too dark to see you, when I am sure I have reached the end. Hold on to me when I forget I need you. When I let go, hold me again. When I don't feel like I'm worth defending, when I'm tired of all my pretending, hold on to me. When I start to break in desperation, underneath the weight of expectation, hold on to me, hold on to me. I could rest here in your arms forever, because I know nobody loves me better. Hold on to me, hold on to me. A lot of that hits hard in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different moments. The line that hit me the most was underneath the weight of expectation. This was definitely a time I was expected to hold things together. Work was tough. There was even a moment we had somebody else there and really looked and was actually there for other staff for a totally related to COVID reason, but I won't dive into it, but looked at me and said, "Are you okay?" And that was really the first time I thought, am I? You know, at work, you keep this face on that you're the one that that has to be okay. And that was hard. But, you know, we got through the toughest times. When my brother and his family were going through something no parent would want to go through, that last line says, I know nobody loves me better. And isn't that true more than we can even realize? Abraham knew that God would hold on to him even when he was doing one of the most difficult things any of us would ever want to do. Very hard to even imagine. But God provided. We just have to trust that it will be in his time. It wasn't earlier when he was walking him up the mountain. It was, we got to wait. Genesis 22:14 says, so Abraham called that place the Lord will provide. I am grateful that I found that prayer journal before all this, and I'm grateful that I've been able to reflect on the times that may have been overwhelming. It's nice now to be able to look back on some of the prayers, and then also there are parts of the journal that have you reflect on answered prayers and praises, and it quotes Psalm 63:3, because your steadfast love is better than life, my lips will praise you. So now, even though that was time I may not have known that there would be answered prayers, I can now look back and see that there are a lot of answered prayers, especially during that time. During the midst of everything, that's really hard. That's hard to see and hard to note. And one of the things I liked about it was weekly. You would write answered prayers so that it could be the little things. It may just be that you got through another week. It could be just those little pieces. It wasn't always the big stuff. A verse that I wrote in the journal, because it also had you write weekly verses, and so looking back, I wrote James 1:2. Consider it pure joy, my brother, whenever you face trials of many kinds. It's really hard to consider. Pure joy. Abraham had to face a trial none of us as parents would ever want to go through. And he was supposed to consider that joy? Wow. He trusted God, though. And so ultimately, because he trusted God, he knows the provider more deeply and intimately. And so thinking about that makes me think, well, don't I want to know the provider more deeply and intimately? Then I must trust him and obey him no matter what I'm going through. So did I experience God's perfectly timed provisions? Well, I continue to work at the same school where graciously everybody understands that family is most important, always first for me. And I've been able to balance more so that work and family. I leave a lot at work now. If I don't get to it, I don't get to it. And that's because my time at home is most important. My nephew was able to go home from the hospital 9 months later after his second bone marrow transplant was successful. He was also able to travel this past Christmas, so just not too long ago, to finally meet all of his cousins and us, during which time he started walking for the first time. So he wanted to keep up with everybody. And it was funny, my sister-in-law said, he's so close. And she said, I hope this trip will get him. And sure enough, it was about 2 days in, he was walking. And in March, I took the kids with my parents to Arizona, and they happened to have the same trip lined up to go to see the doctor for his 1-year anniversary of a successful bone marrow transplant. He's a healthy 1.5-year-old now. You can see, I'm sorry I had to add grandparents to the picture, but that was the best with all kids looking, but that is him with all the cousins. So definitely God's perfectly timed provisions. So thank you for giving me the chance to share. It was great to look back because I still don't even think I knew that those were the words I needed at the time until I was asked to share today. And I reflected on that time and went back and pulled this out and turned to it in an instant and thought, he truly was there. He truly was with me, holding me, providing for me, and really did have those provisions perfectly timed for what I needed. All right. Thank you.
We've got about 2 minutes. I'll put those questions up, but anybody take away something that you're going to take from Megan's talk today? Put it on the Post-it, take with you, share with someone.
The saying, God won't give you more than you can handle. You had a sign at the store that said, God won't give me more than I can handle, but I sure wish he didn't trust me so much. And another one people say is, this too shall pass. And sometimes it's the wrong time to hear that. Somebody said to me, this too shall pass. It might pass like a bad kidney stone, but it will pass.
Yes, I like that. Yes.
I have a picture of Megan and Drew's wedding, and it was in Arizona, and she was so surrounded there by family, church family, and I remember thinking, sorry, Zanny, you're just gonna have to keep the airlines busy. So when Drew's work called him here for one of her jobs, and when Dr. Dean and something, when Megan came here, all I want to say is I was just like, whoa, bless her heart.
Yes.
And then when sister and mother came, I'm like, whoa. But it was just, that was
Yes.
Also never our house and got out back and explained what they were moving. And I didn't know what they were saying in the beginning. And my husband did. He started walking around the yard and I'm like, what? And then it hit me and I was like, oh. And the first thing that went into my head was, God will teach you.
Right. Right. And look how good. Yes.
It turned out good because
Yes.
needed,
Yep. He sure does. God is good. Have a wonderful day today, ladies. Thank you.